Hello, I'm Colin from Hoyland Plant Centre. I'm going to be showing you briefly how to split and how to pot on your Agapanthus. You might not be sure exactly how to do this. I'll start by showing you how to split them. Now we're into April just, perfect time to split your Agapanthus. This quite big specimen here is Agapanthus Midnight Star, a really nice dark blue flower, a very hardy one. You can see it's the perfect time. You can see the new shoots just poking through, a sure sign it's in active growth. So now's the time to get splitting. If you've ever split your Agapanthus before, you'll probably find the worst thing is getting them out the pot to begin with. You've got such thick vigorous roots, those big thick white roots, they're very tough, get really tight in that pot, so getting them out the pot's the hardest. I mean, I'm lucky here, I've got this plastic pot which is much easier to get out than a terracotta. So what I'll do is I'll tap him on the table there, and he has, luckily he's come out the pot, no trouble at all. Good root system on him, but he's not too overly pot bound. So you've got him out the pot there. If you've got a nice clay pot, you maybe had to hit the pot with a hammer to get him out, or cut round the edge of the pot with a knife and then lift the whole thing out. But this one here came out not much problem at all. Now they're so tight and so thick in here that unless you're Hercules, you won't be breaking them apart with your hands, so you do need a bit of extra help. There's no hard and fast rule really, it's whatever tool works for you. You can use all kinds of things. You can use an old saw if you like. It might get a bit dull if it goes through some grit or gravel, so get the old joinery saw, not the new one. So joinery saw you can use, just a sharp knife, nice thick knife. You can even use a sharp spade. So I'm going to use this. You can use a meat cleaver, but I'm going to use this joinery saw. Find a nice neat place to cut, and just a good few strokes should get you through that initial rhizome. And there we go. You can see I've cut him in roughly half there. A piece this size, and an Agapanthus this size, you could probably go into half again. So I'm going to find another good spot to divide them. And there we are, so that's that. Now these pieces, you've divided that piece there. What size pot should you go into? I'd probably say you could probably go back into a good chunk like this. You could probably go back into a pot this kind of a size. And again, this stuff here, there's no great secret to what you plant them in. It's regular multi-purpose garden compost, but with about a third grit mixed in. Grit or perlite, we use perlite because it's lighter and does the same job as grit, but horticultural grit does the same thing. So 2 parts multi-purpose to 1 part grit. So backfill him in here. Plenty of this compost in here. So backfill. Give him a good firm down so it's nice and tight in that pot. And there you have it. Just water it back in again, and he's good then in that pot for another 3 years. Every 2 to 3 years you want to be moving them on. I know there's this myth that they like to be pot bound, but it's only true to an extent. You know, they can get overly pot bound, like these ones here. You can see there's so much root on there that they're not doing a lot, they're not developing. So if you want them to thrive, you want to be splitting them every 5 or 6 years. When they get a really big clump, I mean, I would have been tempted to, even this one I've just split up, could well have gone into a bigger pot this size, you know, a sort of 30-40 litre pot. But any bigger than a pot this size, you won't be able to move it. It may as well be in the ground. So when they get a really big specimen, that's your time to divide them. And potting on, you might have a specimen that's quite big and that's doing well, but not quite big enough to be split yet. If that's the case, you can pot them on every 2 to 3 years as well. So you don't leave them in the same pot indefinitely, but every 2 to 3 years you want to be moving them on. If I take one this size for example, You could move him on to a bigger pot. I'd probably say move him on to a pot about this size. You know, you're talking maybe a 10 litre, 10 inch diameter. He could happily go into that size pot there, no problem at all. The same thing if you've got small ones like this. You know, these have got a good root system. You can see this one here has actually cracked the pot. Take him out the pot. Good root system even for such a young plant. Take him out the pot. If I just had the one specimen, I'd be tempted to go into a pot about this size, you know, so you're talking a 3 litre, maybe 7-8 inch diameter pot. He'd be fine in that pot then for 2 to 3 years. You can do a little cheat though, a little trick we do at the nursery. We get maybe 2 or 3 this size, pop them all together in a bit of a triangle in a bigger pot. That way then they all grow together as one big specimen, and you get a bigger plant quicker. What's not advisable though is just to get one and stick him in the middle of a great big pot. It seems effective, cost effective, but you'll be waiting a few extra years while he struggles to fill that pot. So just go up a couple of pot sizes and just be reasonable. But remember, every 2 to 3 years you want to be potting your Agapanthus on if you want them to stay vigorous. Same again, when they get so big that the pot's unfeasible to move it, when they get so big, then it's time to divide them. Potting on, division, you can do it at any time of year, but you're better to do it in spring. The plants are young and vigorous, they're ready to go again, and because you're splitting them in spring, they usually always flower the same summer. If you split them later on in the year, they'll often miss the following year, you see. So to keep them flowering every year, spring is always the best time. Any time from mid-March up until probably May time is ideal, so you've got about a 6-week window where it's optimum. Thank you very much.